Good morning, I'm Jim Check. With me, Ian Burns, our managing editor, all the way out there in the nation's capital. We are live on YouTube and now live on Rumble, the first time. And if you want to head on over to the Rumble, can you put up that link into our Rumble one? We're live on Rumble, and you might be the first to subscribe there because we are brand new to Rumble. But, you know, things are going well here on YouTube, and we want to get going on Rumble as well. We got lots to talk about today on the Really Big Show. We'll kick off the headlines first. Bridge connecting Canada and U.S. sparks yet more division. For Carney, it seems like it always comes back to hockey talk. Trudeau, the master of division, says it works. Canada gets another medal. Carney meets with Luxembourg. That's the only economy sometimes in the charts that's doing worse than us. The Canadian economy is falling off a cliff. China deals hurting U.S. trade talks. Carney's still mum on Jimmy Lai. Liberals secretly make payments on F-35s. What are all the people going to do screaming about the Grippen's going to do? Jolie says everyone in favor of EV strategy as she has to defend it. If everybody's in favor, why are you defending it? Who's really blind in Canada? The media, the public, or RCMP can't even run their crime lab? Immigration backlog on security screening is wild. Wild numbers. Liberals invoke Hitler yet again. Just drag him out every now and then, eh? Why do liberals want King's powers? Carney warming up the jet. So it's dangerous to even consider the massive immigration led to housing pressures. More money for the elites, more for you to pay. CBC rakes it in. Separatist movements gaining steam. And government ignores safety warnings. Survey says majority of BCers live in fear. Greens say they quit the NDP. Knock, knock, Starmer. Still at home? Still there on 10 Downing Street? Lots of pressure mounting for Keir Starmer to call the moving truck. All that and a lot more on the Really Big Show. We do really have a big show. Beautiful is shot here in the Okanagan again. Traffic streaming smoothly in a kind of like a slightly cloudy day with some blue sky poking through. No snow on the ground yet here. It's been a great year in Kelowna so far with no snow on the ground, but snow in the mountains. How are you making out in the snow capital?
There's a snow warning is out and the school buses have been cancelled, but it hasn't started to fall yet, but it will. It's imminent. But you're saying it's been a great winter. There's actually news stories going around, I believe, on Canadian press as well, bemoaning this weather and the sort of damage that it's going to do to trees and other friends of that kind. So watch your tongue.
There you go. Correct it again. Thank you for all that subscribed yesterday or joined our membership. I think there's well over 21 so far just in the first day alone. Thank you. Thank you, everybody that has become a member. There's some perks that go with it. Ian and I were going to do a video today. We didn't get to it yesterday on explaining what a membership gets you. We do thank the people that signed up, and there was one person there. I can't remember the name off the top of my head there, but he bought 5 memberships and doled them out. Thank you very much for that as well. And the reallybigshow.ca, we're going to put it in the comments there, if the Desert Fox can put it in. Reallybigshow.ca, the website is now up, because we are now on Rumble, Spotify, Apple Music. So you can also listen to this if you can't make it so you can have some more listening in your car and that if you can't watch the videos. We're on so many things now, it's crazy. But here's some of the comments. We like to share the comments. Great discussion sharing, great show, guys. You can read all the comments, they're up on the screen there. And we do share those comments and we do interact. You can see some of the interaction. It is a community we're building and we want you to be part of this as well. And somebody says your guts are awesome. And I almost say that's true because it takes guts for what Ian and I are doing here because we're getting, with all this, the good stuff, we do get a lot of anger. Somebody said for me, there's a couple places I shouldn't even go read about myself because there's a lot of negativity out there. But and then someone says, thanks for your true news from heart and mind and love. That's great. So we appreciate that. Again, you can find us everywhere. There's Tracy. She's got a membership. Thank you, Tracy. Ghost membership. So you get that nice little coffee cup there. And we're going to have our merch up soon as well. Again, thank you to everybody. But the big news, the big headline, the bridge that connects us sometimes divides us. And Trump being Trump, put out a social post there. And as everyone knows, country Canada treated the U.S. very unfairly. And if you can put up that post there, people can kind of read through it. But, you know, like the point of this post is that Canada paid for this bridge all by itself. And I mean, it benefits both countries, but it benefited Canada more so, I guess. And that's why they said we wanted to build it. But Trump once again launched his attack, this time concerning the yet to be open Gordie Howe Bridge between Windsor and Detroit. $6.4 billion paid for by the Canadian taxpayer. The president said, we're not allowed this bridge to open until the United States is fully compensated for everything we've been given them, sparking confusion in both sides of that border. And then we do have a clip from Marc Carney. We'll get into it a bit. We'll just listen to Marc Carney's reaction here first.
Today. So the first thing to say is there's a big game today, and the President and I discussed the Canada-U.S. game, and of course we're all behind our team. Secondly, we discussed a number of issues, international issues. Thirdly, we discussed the bridge. I explained that Canada, of course, paid for the construction of the bridge, over $4 billion. That the ownership is shared between the state of Michigan and the government of Canada, and that in the construction of the bridge, obviously there's Canadian steel, Canadian workers, but also U.S. steel, U.S. workers that are involved. This is a great example of cooperation between our countries. Look forward to it opening. And what is particularly important, of course, is the commerce and the tourism and the voyages of Canadians and Americans that will go across that bridge. So the conversation turned to a series of issues that we will raise and we're going to follow up on. I'm not going to go into detail on those issues. These would be specific issues in parallel to the CUSMA negotiations. Final point is the President asked appropriately that his ambassador, who's from Michigan, of course, play a role in smoothing the conversation in and around the bridge. So it was a positive conversation. It's a big game today, and we're going to win.
With Carney, it's always about hockey. That's the only time you actually get him to hear that. Let's take down that tweet there. That's not good. We can put the bridge picture back up there.
It's also about sport, isn't it? Any sport that you can think of. Yeah. And it does sound a little bit absurd, but I suppose that's his way of kind of meeting absurdity with absurdity. Because on the face of it, this Trump tweet is completely senseless. It makes no sense whatsoever. But Jamieson Greer, who is the US trade representative, he's been speaking to Fox News, I believe today, either this morning or yesterday, and he's explained what it actually means. It's, I hate to say it about our dearly beloved American cousins, but it's extortion. They're trying to extort Canada. And he's spelled it out very clearly. He says, because as things stand, Canada paid to build it, but Canada will also take the toll money. And Greer says, because the US is the bigger economy, because it's the bigger mafia organization, it wants to extort Canada and take, it doesn't say how much, but a cut of that toll money. So a cut should go to the United States. It's the, he spelled it out. I mean, it's unusual sort of honesty, really, or candor, I would say, from the Americans. But we're getting used to that now, aren't we? They're being a lot more candid. But there's also this other thing in the background, which is there's a family that privately owns the Ambassador Bridge, which is the other bridge there. And they've made an absolutely disgusting amount of money from tolls on the Ambassador Bridge. And they hate this bridge because they're worried that they won't be able to make as much money from the bridge that they control. And they're massive Republican donors and big fans of the Republican Party. And they've been in with Trump or trying to get in with Trump. So there's a lot of speculation that they've sort of pushed Trump's buttons and promised him something, or I don't know what it is, money for the midterms or something. But there's speculation that it's somehow related to them. But I think Jamieson, he didn't say that, Greer, by the way. So the only real facts we have, this completely senseless tweet from Donald Trump, which as usual is just like, it's just like a smoke bomb. It's just there to confuse you. But we have Greer, who's come out and given us the only facts we have here, which is America's a much bigger economy than Canada's. Canada needs America much more than the reverse. Therefore, we're going to extort you for 50% or so of the toll money on this bridge that you've paid for to build. I mean, it's like, that's the closest to the truth that I can get to myself.
I mean, it is a leverage point, and it's pretty obvious, and we do need the trade. I mean, it's pretty obvious as well. We do need the trade more than they need us. I mean, that's, again, just an obvious point, and it is an obvious point of leverage as well, especially as you get close to completing something that is a big infrastructure project for Canada. It is huge. We took the risk. We took the risk, built the bridge, and I'm sure, you know, and it would open up the trade corridor, and this is why I wonder why they keep dragging their feet on CUSMA. This benefits a proper trade deal with the United States, and all the rhetoric we hear from the other side of that, from the Liberals, is how they're tearing up CUSMA, and they don't care. They don't need it. They're going to open up other trade corridors, and at the same time, here's this bridge that's sitting there that could actually benefit both sides of the border, both sides, and it just doesn't seem to make sense, especially as they're right about to open it. And it is called the Gordie Howe Bridge. Gordie Howe, number 9, also, you know, played for the Detroit Red Wings as well. So, you know, connecting those two sides there. So, a storied hockey player. Sure.
I would say, though, I mean, someone's just said here, I like most of Trump's positions, not this one. That, I don't know if that person is American, Mackinac. But that is, you know, if polls mean anything, if you have any faith at all in surveys and polls and whatnot, that is very much the average American view and the average Trump supporter view. They don't like this hostility to Canada. And I have to say, obviously, I'm not American, but just looking at this from the perspective of somebody that knows America quite well and is, to put it lightly, very sympathetic to the United States, historically and culturally as a civilization, very sort of pro-American. I look at this and it kind of, this is the stuff that like breaks my heart. This saddens me a lot. Don't even factor Canada into it. Not my loyalties to Canada. Forget that for a second. Just from the American perspective, this saddens me because this is like an American president. And I've said this about Trump from the start. He's taking something that doesn't belong to him, that took hundreds of years to build. That is the Western Alliance and the friendship with all these Western countries. He's taking this thing and he's just like unzipping his fly and doing his business on it. That is just purely from an American perspective. That is so devastating and so sad. You know, that America's superpower in many ways, and the thing that it had over the empire that it succeeded, which is the British Empire, the thing the American Empire has is that people generally kind of like it or are neutral about it. There is a lot of anti-Americanism, but it doesn't really amount to like the kind of hatred that countries and people used to have for example, the British and the French, the sort of predecessor empires. And I just feel like America's kind of just thrown that all away, and it absolutely weakens the United States. And I find that, you know, I find that upsetting as somebody that like wants America to succeed and thrive.
On the other side of that, though, it seems like the Liberals have used Donald Trump as the scary monster, and they've enraged, engaged him in those kind of tactics many, many times to the betterment of the Liberal Party. You've talked about that many times as well. Every time they sink in the polls, they just rally up Donald Trump, and they get that fear factor going, and it seems to bode well for the Liberals. I mean, there's many things we can point to that the Liberals continue to do to seem to want to stick a stick in the eye of CUSMA, because look at Mexico on the other side of it. Look at Japan. Many countries have done deals with America, and they're sitting better than if we continue to stick a stick in the air. We have to recognize our place as well. They are our biggest trading partner. We need them more than they need us, and we have to recognize that when we sit down at the table. I mean, we can't be in there being virtue signaling all the time. And you know, this China thing threatens everything, I think. I mean, we're gonna talk a little bit more about China in a bit, but it threatens everything, and we're gonna throw it all away for China. It's just not going to work out.
I would say, once again, and you know, we scrutinize the Liberals to the max, probably more than anybody else, I would say, in the Canadian media. But it has to be said, once again, this is all Trump. The Liberals have never done anything related to this bridge. There's nothing about this bridge, you know? This is just like nothing at all. This is Trump, you know, just pulling this out of thin air as part of his negotiation tactics, I suppose. But like I said before, there are some things that are sacred. And I definitely consider the Western Alliance to be sacred. I think it's a sacred thing. And it's, you know, it's just heartbreaking to see this, because you can't just like, you can't guarantee that these things can be maintained or rebuilt if they're knocked down, you know. But certainly, just to talk about the cheekiness of the Liberals, you know, there was a spring in Mark Carney's step there, wasn't there, when he was talking about the hockey and all that. And you can see why, because this is delightful news for the Liberals. If we could have access to their WhatsApp messages, the groups that they're in, I mean, I guarantee you they are absolutely delighted. They'll have all the little dancing emojis out. This is great news for them, because this is Trump being archetypal Trump, like completely irrational, belligerent, picking on Canada while he doesn't pick on the countries that actually destroy the planet. Like, you know, name your country. Not so bothered about American enemies, attacking Canada, while Carney gets to sort of stride in magisterially and talk about hockey and look cool and all that stuff. This is just like, this could not be better for the Liberal Party. This could not have gone better. This is like glorious times for the Liberal Party, which is, I mean, and that's another question. Like, why is Trump apparently so interested in boosting the left in Canada to the detriment of the right in Canada?
Thank you, Fickle Knot, there for the contribution to independent media. We do appreciate that as well. We really do appreciate that. And yeah, fear is something that the Liberals for the past 10, 11 years have really relied on. We're going to listen to the Hall of Famer Fool of the Day, and he explained why fear is so good. Listen to this.
In 2015, so 7 years ago, one of the things that we put forward, and I remember saying this a whole bunch of times, attack politics, divisive politics, negative, stirring up of hate and fear and differences. The dirty secret is they work. Mm-hmm. Even back in 2015, they work to get you elected.
Sure, yeah.
You can do that. You can mobilize and get elected.
Good. Right from the mouth of babes.
Knows that well.
And it's just that the Liberal Party has not looked back from it, and they have not looked back from it, and they continue to drive it. And again, we've seen it time and time again. As the Liberals sink in the polls, they just rally the troops again and drive the fear machine up, and CBC does the work for them. And CP and CTV, they go out there and do everything they can to drive the fear. Tracy asked there earlier, how do we get Jim and Ian on mainstream media? Make this channel big so that they can't ignore it. Just make it as big as you can. Share this, put this on your Facebook, put it everywhere. It is growing substantially, and we do appreciate everybody. And the truth is shall set you free. Somebody wise said that once. I can't remember who said that, though. But shine a light on it. I remember somebody from government told me that. Shine a light on it and watch the rats scurry, because they love the cover of darkness. We're going to play a little bit of this clip. I just don't know where it is. It's just on media. Well, maybe we won't play it. It was Bill Maher, and he basically said, if your media outlet is all about TDS, get a new media outlet. And he's talking about the American ones, but like that applies to CBC and CTV. We won't need to play it, but he goes in and he just says, you can go find it. He basically explains if they're feeding you a constant fear and TDS, there's something wrong with that outlet. It's time to move on. And that's why you're here. And that's why you're here. Canada, some good news. Canada won its third medal. So Canada and that is a medal courtesy of skier Megan Oldham. There you go. Congratulations to Megan. So Canada's medal total now is 3. 1 silver, 2 bronzes, leading in gold, Norway. They love the winter sports, obviously. It's winter there, isn't it? Winter there, like 12 months of the year. Well, maybe not quite, but they love oil and gas as well as snowbanks. Switzerland, they love the skiing. Austria, Italy, yeah, there you go. Italy, you know, it's their hometown. They got 2 golds already. Japan is always really strong in the Olympics. And obviously missing in this, that usually dominate on the stage there, both in Winter and Summer Olympics, is the Russians.
Yeah. Oh, well. The Dutchies as well having a good go. Not much snow in the Netherlands.
Mark Carney meeting with Luxembourg. Luxembourg, that's the only country, whenever we look at all the charts and graphs we look at, the only country, we say it all the time, thank God for Luxembourg. The only one that's worse than Canada as far as GDP per capita and that stuff goes. Luxembourg. But Mark Carney, let's play a little clip here of this meeting with Luxembourg.
His counterpart from Luxembourg. They're discussing the potential for new investment, greater exports, and common values.
At its core is a partnership of values, shared values, and ambition.
Canada plays a key role in our thinking about the future of Europe and the world. We both believe in a rules-based international order.
The leaders held a brief photo op after a working lunch. Last year, Luxembourg's foreign direct investment stock in Canada topped more than $22 billion. There's potential for more investment, too. Luxembourg is the largest investment fund center in Europe and the second largest in the world. The Grand Duchy opened an embassy in Ottawa last year.
It's also one of the world's best tax havens. Imagine that. That's why it is the investment capital. It is a massive tax haven for tax dodgers.
But he's been bobbing around all kinds of tax dodging countries, hasn't he? I mean, Qatar was a bit like that.
Qatar?
And not just tax, but obviously they're like massive fossil fuel exploiters, I suppose the Liberals would say. And yet that's who they go to and ask for money. It is rather cheeky, isn't it? But I mean, nothing beats going to China. Obviously, that is still the apex of Liberal hypocrisy.
So yeah, so a lot of Canadian corporations stash some cash there too, including Mark Carney's Brookfield. Loves that Bahamas bike shop. How many businesses in that bike shop there? How many are registered into that bike shop? That bike shop must make a killing. And I don't know where they get all the space in that tiny little bike shop, but Brookfield. And Barack Obama said that Bahamas bike shop, or Bahamas tax haven, was one of the worst tax dodgers in the world. And also, Mark Carney said he knew about the loopholes, that's why he exploited them. He said he didn't break any laws, but he was going to close the loopholes. It's been almost a year. Loophole not closed. Loophole not closed. Not even talked about. Meanwhile, you pay more, and here's Canada's economy. Again, we saw our friend Justin Trudeau just recently. Something happened in there around 2015, the decoupling from the United States. You can just see it right there on the chart on the left. There's a decoupling. And then the manufacturing as a share of GDP there. That's how much of Canada's manufacturing is part of its GDP. Falling off a cliff, and it's going to get worse. The auto sector, that's one of the biggest manufacturing things in Canada. 500,000 workers rely on the Canadian auto sector, and they seem to be wanting to implode it intentionally with this Chinese deal. It just seems to be this EV mandate, they just can't get past it for some strange reason. There might be somebody that makes batteries, Clarios or something like that. Clarios makes batteries. Is that the reason? It makes no sense at all. The United States has moved past it. Billions in write-offs for Ford, GM, Stellantis. Stellantis sold that plant. We talked about it yesterday. Stellantis sold their plant, the battery plant in Canada for, after making almost a $100 million investment, I believe, for $100. And yeah, we're going to build more, according to Melanie Jolie. Why not throw good money after bad? Why not throw good money after bad? Somebody here for the comments contributed $10. Thank you very much. And said thanks for the show. And we are trying to shine a light on it. The only thing we can do is be honest first and then recognize where we're at. Do you know what I mean? Otherwise, we're not going to get better if we just pretend, there's a bunch of people screaming and telling us to shut up and not share these things. What are we going to just live in a bubble and just tell you how great it is while people stand in record numbers in food bank lineups? Is that what we want? Is that how it works? Well, the elites continue to take money. And we're going to show you some of that later. Well, they continue to take money, where people continue to suffer in Canada, with more than half the population now $200 away from meeting their monthly obligations. That's not right. So we're going to fight for a better tomorrow. We're going to do all we can. And if you can help us share this, get this out to as many people as possible. And we are streaming on Rumble today as well. So just so you know, we're on Rumble. You can also find us on podcasts. You can find us, we pushed a transistor, which pushes out to, I don't know how many podcasts, 10, 15, 20, I don't know. But we're seeing the traffic numbers coming from Apple and Spotify mostly, though. So there you go. Jamil Jabani went down to, we won't play that. We'll use that every now and then. Everyone, we need an Evan Solomon, we build, you block. We'll put that in there. We'll throw that in there. But Jamil Jabani went down to talk to, he got a meeting with, I think, Vance and Rubio. And he, straight from the horse's mouth, said, this China thing is causing grief. And that's pretty obvious, right? I mean, that's like the stick in the eye for sure. That's going to rile up the automakers. That's going to rile up Jim Farley, Mary Barra, and Stellantis. That's going to rile them all up. And Jim Farley has said, we need Canada. So why don't we just try to work on that with Jim Farley, as opposed to sticking another stick in the eye of the Americans when we need that auto sector so badly here in Canada.
And it's also the people that, if anyone buys these Chinese EVs that are going to arrive in Canada, and I'm sure they'll all be sold, but they could end up being seriously screwed over, because the Americans might just say, if there's a Chinese EV coming into a US border crossing from Canada, we're just going to turn them around. We're not going to let them in. I mean, that would suck, wouldn't it? Would that permit them then to sue the federal government or something like that? It's sort of, just everything about this is a problem, It's just a bag full of problems.
We're going to listen to a little clip here from CBC on Giovanni's visit there.
National Post, Jamil Jabani says he met with President Donald Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, who of course is a longtime friend of Giovanni's, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio. He also met with some U.S. senators and the U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer. Now, Jabani concluded that while there's optimism about trade talks resuming, Canada's approach to the U.S. needs to change. He wrote, while the appeal of making this a partisan issue may be strong for some in Ottawa, especially as rumors of a 2026 snap federal election swirl, the reality is that the federal government's current approach is hurting Canada's ability to assert ourselves in important discussions about the future of North America. Keith, I mean, we don't know the content of the conversations between Mr. Jabani, his old friend, and the various people at the top of the U.S. government, but what do you make of him going there, publishing an op-ed, and I guess eventually hoping to brief Dom LeBlanc, the Prime Minister, on it?
Yeah, I think it's important to look at it through a couple of lenses, one being that Mr. Jabani's riding is likely to be deeply impacted from layoffs at General Motors. It's very close to Oshawa. And so he has an interest as the Member of Parliament for that region in trying to do what he can and demonstrate he's doing what he can to try and get talks back on track. I do think that it is wise for Conservatives to take the lead insofar as not waiting for the Liberals to try to get back to the table. I think what's been clear for the last number of months, really since October or November, is that there hasn't been a push from Ottawa to rush back to the negotiation table. We do have this threat of a 100% tariff applying in a matter of weeks if we proceed with the Canada-China deal. So I think that Mr. Jabani acting on behalf of his constituents makes good sense. And I think, frankly, it puts the ball back in the government's court to now say, okay, we're going to take what we've learned from this. And, to your point, Mr. Jabani is going to be briefing the Prime Minister. And
well, we'll see. We'll see. He suggested he wants.
Listen to David Cochrane, eh? Listen to David Cochrane. We'll see. We'll see. Come on, David.
The only thing that could stop that happening is if the Prime Minister continues to refuse to speak to him, which he's been doing for some time now. in this great spirit of cooperation that they keep talking about. But he wouldn't speak to him. I mean, this guy, Jamil Jivani, obviously he's in it for himself, as everybody in politics is, and the Conservative Party is in it for itself. Right, obviously. That said, his friendship with J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, is authentic, as far as I can tell. I mean, they're genuinely friends. Why wouldn't you take advantage of that? Even if the chap that was good friends with the Vice President was on the opposition benches, why wouldn't you take advantage of that? I mean, it's so obvious, but they refused to do that so many times that he went by himself, just sort of went down there, and then they criticized him. They attacked him for it.
Well, they're gonna even get worse. They're gonna get worse.
So odd. So weird.
It's absolutely crazy. And Nita Anand said that they didn't really want to do anything because the United States made a minerals deal with Mexico, the European Union, Japan, except Canada. Canada was left out. And when asked Anita Anand, she said, "We're not doing anything until we get a Kuzma deal." Like we're doing it to ourselves. We're literally doing this to ourselves where we could kind of fix portions of our economy right now. So people sitting at home waiting for their unemployment or all that other stuff going on, just look at what is actually being done. And then look at, we're going to show you some of the other stuff where they speak differently in the media. And instead of CBC asking why the Prime Minister doesn't want to talk to Jivani, defending why he shouldn't talk to him. Just, well, hold on. The CBC needs to be defunded, and they can put Ian and I there in the place, and then we'll see what the difference is for Canada. I'm sure it'll be a better place. Here's Frank Caputo putting out this letter here about the MOU that was signed that's now secret with China, and this is about security. This is the biggest threat, I think, that people are highlighting. China and Canada working on security agreements? When Mark Carney himself said not a year ago that China is the biggest threat, all of a sudden we're going to work and exchange security information? How do you think the Americans are going to take this? How do you, it's absolutely crazy. Like most countries, almost all the EU and Britain and all those countries recognize China as the biggest threat. NATO recognizes China as the biggest threat. Yet, Mark Carney and the Liberals want to sign a security agreement? And then how many reporters are asking about Mark Carney's possible conflicts with taking a loan directly from the Bank of China? Where are those questions? Where are those questions? And it even becomes even more apparent here with this decision or the sentencing of Jimmy Lai. Let's listen to another Conservative MP, Michael Chong here.
Honourable member for Wellington, Halton Hills North.
Mr. Speaker, Hong Kong has sentenced newspaper publisher Jimmy Lai to 20 years in prison simply for exercising his rights and freedoms of the press, of speech, of assembly, of association guaranteed in an international treaty, the Sino-British Joint Declaration. Will the government reiterate its call for Jimmy Lai to be immediately released? And secondly, will the government acknowledge that his imprisonment is a violation of an international treaty and international law?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for his question. Canada is deeply disappointed with the tragic sentencing of Jimmy Lai in Hong Kong. We call for the immediate release of Jimmy Lai. In fact, we have consistently spoken out against the national security law since its imposition in 2020. While in Beijing, I reiterated Canada's long-standing position to my counterpart that the persecution of journalists, of media workers, of activists is unacceptable. Mr. Speaker, Canada will always support a free...
That's good. I went through Mark Carney's tweets, nothing. Why silent on this issue? Why silent?
Are we pretending that we don't know? It's so funny. I think it's even funnier if you work in a newsroom as we do and you get the emails coming in directly from Mark Carney every day to say, his itinerary and all kinds of things. But he's a couple, just a couple that he sent in the last, let's have a look, the last 10 days or so. Statement by Prime Minister Mark Carney on Black History Month. Statement by Prime Minister Carney on the passing of Catherine O'Hara. Statement by Prime Minister Carney on the National Day of Remembrance of the Quebec City mosque attack and action against Islamophobia. That's just a few. He will send out, I can literally just keep going, and it's more and more of the same. You might think that these are important things, by all means. But what's happened in China or Hong Kong is at least as important as some of them, isn't it? Wouldn't you say? I mean, he sends out statements, celebratory statements, to mark obscure Sikh festivals and things like that, like Punjabi festivals and things like that. They all do. EB does that, so does Pierre Poilievre. But, if you've got time and you've got the inclination to send out some sort of, banal statement celebrating a festival in Sikhism that you've never heard of, but you tell your minions to do it anyway. If you can do that, I think you could maybe consider uttering a word about this action by the Chinese, which violates international law. That thing, I thought the Liberals loved that. I thought they were all about that sort of thing.
They love the
virtue signal. Apparently not.
They love the virtue signaling. You'd think this would be the moment because this is atrocious. But here's the response from China, the Chinese embassy in Canada. This is the response. And this should tell you all you need to know. Basically says, shut up. It's our business. Jimmy Lai is a Chinese national. The judicial system is purely an internal affair of Hong Kong. We firmly oppose the Canadian side's irresponsible remarks on the Hong Kong's SAR handling of this case and urge the Canadian side to respect China's sovereignty and the rule of law in Hong Kong and not to interfere. You know what?
Your mouth. Yes, that is what that says.
Shut your mouth. That's what it says. And then if you go to CBC on any given day, you can find what? 10, 15 TDS articles, anti-ICE articles, and how many CBC, CTV, CP stories out Canadian companies that manufacture products that ICE uses and tell you that they need to be stopped. They did this with Jimmy Pattison. They did it with a guy making vehicles. How many of those articles right now are out there to stop people from buying Chinese products that are supplying China or blocking this EV deal? How many CBC? How many CTV? How many?
How many articles right there saying China, in a dramatic event in the history of the world, China undermines international norms and the international rules-based order. And China's this really malevolent force that's disrupting everything that we've taken for granted. It's a new world, everybody. It's like 1945. Where's Mega Kermit? Turbo Kermit? Is he going to come out and say, this is like a really big problem. This is as bad as some say 1945, maybe 1989, depends what you think. When is he going to come and say that? Not a word, because it's China, and they're too afraid of that. Whereas they look at the United States, as we've said many times, they look at the United States as kind of like a father. They have daddy issues with the United States. They feel that there's an obligation there. And I mean, I would sort of sympathize a little bit. There should be Western unity, I think. There should be kind of Western, solidarity. I do believe in that. But still, their attitude is absurd. And the other thing that probably should be pointed out, China is a communist dictatorship. So it's governed by left-wing extremists, far-left extremists. Can you imagine? And the Liberal Party is a left-wing party. I mean, centre-left. Greens and whatnot would dispute that, but it's generally considered to be centre-left. Can you imagine if the Tories were in power as a centre-right party and they were this soft on some imaginary fascist country that doesn't exist? But imagine that there was a massive fascist country, the equivalent of China, and the Tories had done a deal with them and were really soft on them when they'd, imprisoned a man like this, like Jimmy Lai. Can you imagine the reaction from CBC? Do you not think they'd be asking questions like, why are you doing business with these Nazis? they get on about some other countries and pretend that they're that bad. Countries like Hungary and some other countries, which are not fascist or Nazi, obviously. But they get very upset about that. And if there's ever any kind of conversation going on between like the Tories and Fidesz, the Hungarian party in power, it's like, oh, this is sketchy. Or even with, we don't even have to look to Hungary, even with the Republican Party. You know, if there's any kind, like the slightest bit of chumminess, CBC's on it right away. But because it's left-wing extremists, communists, and the centre-left liberals, that's just like not an issue, not a problem, nothing to see.
One has to wonder why Mark Carney hasn't said anything. One has to wonder why Mark Carney took a loan from the Bank of China and President Xi himself. One has to wonder why there's nothing being said. And one has to wonder why the CBC continues to not ask the question about the conflicts of interest. One has to wonder why CBC is not doing articles about not doing business with Chinese companies when they are so gung-ho when it comes to America. Like CBC is an anti-American website. They do most stories on anti-TDS. And if you listen to Bill Maher there, Lightning Rod, that's got to be your hero, left-wing commentator. He said, stop watching them. And I'm glad that Lightning Rod here is just don't try to dominate the conversation by saying crazy things. And, you know, we're cool with you here. Just be respectful.
But I mean, like Mr. Leinenrod, he's so emblematic of his of so many people on his side of the argument, where he's just pretending not to understand. I don't know if you've seen that meme that's going around on X, where it's like talking about particularly liberals, but people on the left, whereas one of their primary strategies for argument is pretending not to understand. And what do you want a better example of that, where Mr. Rod says, Nazis are lefties now? Why are you pretending to be stupid? Why are you pretending that you don't understand? It's, you know, how can you have like a serious conversation with somebody who is pretending to be that ignorant and that stupid?
Yeah, moving on though. Yeah, we're not going to play that one. We just want to go to this here. Canada discreetly puts money down on the 14 additional F-35s while they rile the media up to go after, you know, the Gripens and this. Like in the media, the Globe writing stories, like almost everybody's writing stories about we should never buy the F-35s, and you know, they have like almost like the dogs out there, and then secretly, which you and I have said, they're going to buy the F-35s. There's no doubt about it, because you know who protects Canada? Guess. Anybody want to guess?
China?
Nope.
Greenland?
Greenland. And we opened a consulate, and we did that yesterday. We opened a consulate in Greenland. At what cost and for what purpose? This is another stick in the eye of America. It seems like they do everything they can. Or maybe it's just to rile the base in Canada. I'm not sure what the reasoning is, but it doesn't make no sense. But and yet more, Canada-U.S. drama. The federal government has begun quietly, of course quietly, to make payments on 14 F-35s, despite the Liberals insisting they've yet to decide. This, according to a report from the CBC.
And the worst thing is that they haven't said anything about it. They want to do it on the QT, don't they? And even the Department of Defense refused to confirm, refused to comment to CBC. It's just such it's such slimy behavior, isn't it? This is proper like scumbag behavior from the Liberals. But it's good to see the CBC having to experience what we experience with everything. Like if we literally ask about anything from this government, they just ignore us like this. So it's good to see that they're also willing to display their sliminess to the CBC. But yeah, I mean, what a farce. And I feel the same about EV, this EV strategy that they keep talking about, this deal with China. What a farce all of this is. If you can't even persuade us, like they haven't even succeeded in persuading random Canadian citizens that they're not bluffing. Like, I'm 100% sure that they're bluffing on all of this. And they just want a deal with the Americans. That's their priority. And this is all just spurned lover going off and pretending to flirt with other people. It's just a crap bluff. But if they can't persuade us, or they can't fool us, what makes you think that they're going to fool the Americans? And that's kind of, I feel like that's why we keep pointing this stuff out. Because if we're not fooled, what makes you think that like the brightest minds in the American government are fooled? Because I really don't think they are. I think they see straight through this stuff.
Well, I'm sure somebody there in America watches this show and we can actually help them understand the reality of the situation. Because you're sure not getting anything by watching the CBC, other than getting your TDS anger up to a level of just like rabid, just almost like, you know, you have rabies or something like that. Some people may have to detox from it. I can tell right away when I talk to somebody when they're completely rabid that they watch too much CBC because they have no sense of reasoning left in their mind. The Commons Industry Committee yesterday voted to scrutinize Cabinet's decision to expand the market access for Chinese battery electric vehicles and revive $5,000 rebates, which they're going to pay to American-made electric imports. The unanimous vote came from after Industry Minister Jolie said she could not understand why anybody would oppose the measures. She said everybody, the industry, Ford, unions, consumer groups are all in favor of the strategy, said Jolie. So then why are you defending it? If everybody's in favor, everybody should mean everybody, isn't it? So, because they get the fact that actually we are supporting those who invest in us. She loves that line. We support those who invest in us, right? We need to embrace electrification because that's where the rest of the world is going. Newsflash, not so much. Newsflash. America just backpedaled on it massively. Even England backpedaled on their mandates and all that. Everybody seems to be backpedaling a bit. China definitely.
EU?
Yeah, EU. China definitely has a lot of EVs for sure. They have like 100 EV makers. And then they don't have oil and gas, right? So they have very dense cities, which EVs work really well in. Very dense cities. Like, you know, like one of their cities is larger than the population of Canada. Like it's a completely different country. Look at a map. Again, I love Ian's line. Consult the globe. Just look at the globe. Look at Canada. Look at our weather. look at it. Look at our density. It's not the same, Melanie. It's not the same. Tell the person.
Also, the elephant in the room here has to be, surely, talking about the future of EVs and talking about like the real nitty gritty, the sort of, you know, the actual account sheets of the money coming in and the purchases and all that. In this country, at least, that's basically the province of one company. It's one company, and it never gets mentioned. There's no talk. Like, I can't remember the last time I heard them say the word Tesla. I don't think I think that's a banned word for Canadian ministers.
Yep.
It's so unrealistic. You're talking about the future of EVs, and all these companies are going to be knocking EVs out. Where are they? There's still only one company in Canada that is even slightly important in terms of the market, and it's Tesla. They're like they might as well be the only EV company in Canada, but they're just never spoken of.
Kamala Harris even said it with Joe Biden that they made a mistake when they didn't invite Tesla to the big EV summit at the White House. They made a mistake. Yeah, I bet they made a mistake. They're making a mistake here. They never talk about, like Elon Musk has Saskatchewan roots. Man, pick up a phone. Pick up a phone. Or maybe we'll pick up, you know what I mean? Like if we had the clout, we'd pick up the phone and ask Elon to bring something here. He's got lots of companies. You just throw a few crumbs our ways. And they don't. Tesla is the only serious. Tesla's the only EV company in the world that makes money. The only profitable EV company in the world, including the Chinese. There is nobody else that makes money selling EVs. And their EVs, I drive one and driven one for like 2.5 years now. You need a telescope to see second place. So that's why Ford's canceling a lot of their programs. A lot of them are backing away. A lot of them wrote off billions of dollars. Those are the facts, Melanie. And you just ignore the facts. And this is the other one. It says, we need to make sure we reduce greenhouse gas emissions and align ourselves with more to Europe. Still selling the same pablum. Still selling the same pablum.
How mad is that, though, as well? What's the point of doing that? Do you know what I mean? Seriously, what's the point of aligning with Europe? We're not going to sell them any cars.
And then you have to ask yourself about the conflicts of interest. Some of the reporters are seeing them now. Look, here's Terry Newman from the National Post. because somebody had wrote, contrary to Polyev, Carney's investments are in a blind trust. If he knows what's in there, how blind is the trust? Do you know what I mean? Like they just love the word blind trust. And is this enough for some people that they would actually believe, oh, it's a blind trust? Scott Bassett said, there's no such thing as a blind trust. Mark Carney has options for Brookfield. That's just part of it. And obviously, if Brookfield goes up, his investments go up. And then you get these people that defend it and say it's in a blind trust, like that's it, it's under lock and key in a blind trust. They don't even know what they're talking about. And it's his friend managing the blind trust to top it off. And Terry Newman.
Not just a friend, but it's somebody who, it's his employee, basically. Carney is the boss of the person who's responsible for it. In terms of ethics, this is just absolutely stinks. But as usual, the Carney obsessives, the Carney cultists, refuse to see that. That's just a trivial, that's just not even worth consideration.
And then she also puts this out, and here's an answer for you. She says, if Carney wants an election, he'd sit down for a tough Canadian interview with a reporter that asks him everything, including why he didn't disclose his DOJ testimony, why Canada deals with Qatar and China and all that stuff, and Brookfield. Who in Canada, other than you and I, would do that interview? Like, it sure isn't CTV. It sure isn't Global. It sure isn't CBC. They're the last on the rung. And if that interview doesn't happen, the press in this country is useless. And I think, Terry Newman, you know the answer already.
Yeah, there's no chance. Absolutely no chance. I mean, if the Liberals were serious about press freedom, they would sit down and be interviewed by the news organizations that are most hostile to the Liberal Party. Because that's what you have to do. You have to sit and be scrutinized and questioned by the people that are most against what you stand for. I mean, that's just that's why Trump sits down with CNN. Even Trump understands this. But obviously the Liberals don't understand it. And I would say, who could possibly conduct this interview? Brian Lilley, maybe? That's about the only name that comes to mind. I honestly can't think of anybody else, really.
You and I. That's it.
Yeah. Trying to be modest here. But yeah, I would say Brian Lilley. That would be my nomination. Some people might say Sam Cooper, but I don't think so. He's too specialized, I would say.
I'd think almost like it would be you and I, just based on the knowledge base that we have, even more so than Brian Lilley. And that's my 10 cents. I don't know, people can kind of chirp in there. And Jasmine Lane is not a journalist. She's an influencer. It even says on her thing. So, yeah. She's great, though.
Does she have a journalism background?
I think she did. She did work in the industry at one point.
Okay.
RCMP is an internal report mismanaging crime labs in 3 provinces. Why not? Service was so slow, investigators were hiring private labs for testing despite the higher cost. The federal government hires consultants. The cops hire consultants. Most clients found routine services were not being delivered in a timely manner. And that's from the report on the evaluation of the RCMP's biology casework analysis service. How are we paying more money, just crazy amounts of money, and getting worse service and worse service? Only 50% of the surveyed clients were satisfied or very satisfied with their timelines. Clients were using private labs for quicker service requests, turnaround time. Interview data shows some clients are paying higher service rates for private labs. The Mounties operated forensic laboratories in Surrey, Edmonton, and Ottawa. Expenses were shared for all but 2 provinces operate their own police labs.
Do you want me to use ChatGPT to answer that?
I don't know.
AI, it's taken over. You
woke up. My phone woke up and just said, hey, let me just do this. At RCMP labs until 2016 promised to complete forensic tests in 40 days. Only 42 to 54% of routine requests met the previous targets of 40 days. RCMP labs received 8,693 cases last year. It took them an average of 73 days to complete sexual assault cases and 77 days for homicide cases. That's why, you know, like the courts move so slow, the labs move so slow, everything is just ground to a halt here in Canada, just grinding to a halt. And here's more. Some 100,000. What's that?
It's across the board. It's hardly unique to one sector, is it?
Here's more. Some 100,000 illegal immigrants and refugee claimants in Canada are awaiting security screening. The chair of immigration, and the refugee board said that yesterday. MPs earlier expressed unease with months-long delay in conducting background checks. Just let them in. We'll deal with it later. We have about 300,000 cases pending. 300,000. About a third of those are pending, and we can't do anything with them because we don't have front-end security screening, and we don't want to proceed without that element. 3 years of historically high levels of intake, 156,000 in 23, 176,000 last year. When this year we estimate between 95 and 105,000 of illegal immigrants. Asylum seekers get to jump the queue. They get in front of all the other immigration streams, and this is the easiest way to get in, and don't even get screening. So hey, the current wait time for completion of Immigration and Refugee Board is 44 months. Imagine that. You're here 4 years before you get screened. Imagine what you can do in 4 years. Wow. That's the next.
You can have a child. Yeah, that's one thing you can do, and then that makes it almost impossible to deport you.
In other news, in Mexico, Mexican authorities identify bodies of 5 of the 10 missing workers from a BC firm, and that's from the BC company Vizsla Silver Corp. Have been found dead. They're found in secret graves. Still nasty stuff going on there. Vizsla Silver Corp. I knew that company too.
Yeah, like Mexico, under the party that Scheinbaum leads, which has been in charge for God knows how long now, off and on, they've basically dominated Mexico since, what was it, since like the 50s or something like that, or 30s even? They've been there forever. But they have, you know, particularly under the previous president, they are very intimately linked with the cartels. And it's that's the least of it. It's every aspect of Mexican society, and that includes obviously any sort of corporate enterprise. And there's there's connections between the corporate enterprises, Scheinbaum's party. It's all just it's a horrible web of corruption, isn't it? So I guess the only thing that you could say really is, you know, watch your back in a country like Mexico. It is very much still considered to be kind of like a quasi-narco state, isn't it? It's risky business there.
Here you go. Here's Liberal MP invoking Hitler again. Let's listen to this. This is just absolutely crazy.
A U.S. hostile government, deliberate destruction of global allegiances and the stability that our country has relied on. We have a Conservative Party of Canada's own Unity Mitford, who is attempting to freelance negotiations with the American president right now. There's separatist movements.
What a point of order. That's good. They have no problem just throwing that stuff out there, eh? None whatsoever.
I mean, it is kind of funny, isn't it? You have to...
In a sad kind of way? Kind of funny in a sad kind of way? Yeah.
Oh, my God. But I would also suggest that this guy is probably just too stupid to know what he's saying as well. He probably just has no idea what he's saying. I wouldn't dismiss that immediately as an explanation anyway. I would say that there's a very realistic chance that he just doesn't know what he's saying.
I'm pretty sure he knew what he was saying.
He's heard that somewhere. And he's
not many people would know who Unity Mitford is, and just without throwing it out there. So he knew what he was saying. I believe he knew what he was saying and what he's trying to imply. He's trying to rile up that base against. And then I think the only Nazi that's been in the House of Commons, who invited them there?
Yeah.
The party of inclusion. This one is troubling. This one is super troubling, and we've been trying to bring attention to this. John Carpay brought attention to this. Just, you have to wonder. This is Marc Miller, the Heritage Minister, answering this question to Sandra Kobina here. And this one is really important for Canadians. You got to listen to this.
One minister, individual minister, be allowed to bypass 150 years of Canadian law and exempt a person or company of their choosing.
Yeah, look, that may be your view, but I don't think that is what's happening.
Well, that's how it's written.
It doesn't say people are being exempted from 150 years of law.
It says from any federal law except the criminal code.
Right. There's no mention of years or...
It's any federal law except
Sure.
for the criminal. So it's any federal law that has been passed over the last 150 years.
Right. I'm not going to parse this out with you.
So just to be clear, you don't need it to do your job, but you want to keep it nonetheless.
I think it's helpful to have.
Do you see the potential of abuse, though, in that companies or people will have to lobby you personally and not care about the law itself?
No one's asked me to overturn any laws.
You would have the ability to.
In some context, perhaps, but again, this is something that would have to be used very judiciously.
How could you possibly think that this would not undermine the trust in our democracy then?
I think Canadians expect us to act reasonably. I think Canadians expect us to be judicious in our decision making. Passing a law like C-15, which all members will have the opportunity to vote on, is something that is inherently accountable in and of itself.
Well, it has this particular clause that is very problematic. It is all over the news. I have a letter with 43 organizations asking for you to strike it because of the potential of abuse, but you still want to keep it.
I think I've answered that question about 3 times now.
I just don't find it reasonable for you to have the powers of a king, essentially.
I certainly don't have the powers of a king.
If you are allowed to exempt any entity from any federal law, it is like the powers of a king.
Is that a statement or a question?
Well, it's a fact.
Thank you, Ms. Kobina. That concludes the time for this.
There you go. Who cares?
I honestly think I think we need to stop. I need to go have an ice bath after that, because that was just disgusting. What can you think of a better word? He makes my skin crawl. That man is such a weasel.
They don't even care what they ask.
He's like an angry woman, an angry girlfriend or wife who doesn't want to cooperate. You're having a sort of a dispute about something, and it's just like, doesn't say anything here about 150 years. I wouldn't have the power of a king. This man is a minister of the crown. He is representative of the government. He's one of a few dozen people in Canada that has real power. And just look at him, listen to him. What a repulsive attitude. What a disgusting attitude to democracy. Once again, ugh. I honestly, I'm genuinely, I'm retching here.
And on CBC, massive coverage on this. Wait a sec, no. News just in, CBC not covering it. They are covering the bridge thing in full detail, and TDS, they've got that covered. But these powers, they're like pardons. Like, why would they want them? One, why would they want them? Why would they need them? And they surely wouldn't give it, the question now is that, would you give, if you were sitting on the other side of the table, would you give it to the Conservatives? The answer would be a hard no, an absolute no. Why would we give this power? And why would they want this power?
And why would they react like that when they're asked completely run-of-the-mill questions? And not even in an aggressive way or anything. Often the Tories, they play along with this stupid game. But she wasn't playing with that game there. She was being ordinary. She was being, you know, considering that these are political enemies who are often at each other's throats, she was being sort of all right at first. Obviously, she got a bit upset with him, as anybody would. But that attitude, just plain stupid, plain dumb, so that he can say as little as possible to the Canadian people. Just his mind is just completely focused on the woman opposite him, on the Conservative Party. I'm a Liberal, she's a Conservative. I hate this woman. I'm not going to answer anything. Like we've said so many times, this is not for them to have their stupid little arguments on camera. It's for us. It's for the democracy. That's what keeps this democracy alive. And that's Marc Miller's attitude to it. You know, Marc Miller, the same guy who, when confronted by somebody and asked a question about immigration, said, "You're a well-known racist," or something like that, just to some random guy with a camera. I just... It's so repulsive to see this. And this is like rocket fuel to any movement in this country that wants to destroy the status quo, including democracy. If you hate democracy and you want to try and get some supporters for your group, just play this video. Just buy a truck and drive around with that video on the side on a loop, and you will win thousands of supporters, I'm sure. And this is what I suppose this is what makes me so upset. It's like this complete lack of responsibility, this childishness, this stupid complacency that he just thinks it'll go on forever, and it's okay for him just to act like a childish little weasel, and that's fine. He can just do that, and everything will be fine. You know, Marc Miller, sometimes he has the power to get to me, I think. He really disgusts me sometimes, this man.
I just don't understand why they would ask for it, why they need it. And Mark Carney's leadership has to be called into question that he would even allow this to be asked for, unless he's the one asking for it, because the conflicts of interest with Brookfield are too many. And this should never happen in a democracy. Nobody, the cabinet, this is not even just Mark Carney himself, it's cabinet ministers are given the rights to do this. Cabinet ministers are given the right to give this get out of jail pardon card to companies, to whoever they see fit, with no answering to it. This thing is one of the most important things happening in Canada right now. And if you can share this far and wide, this thing needs to get out. People need to be outraged about this. Thank you to CYB Structure for the contribution, for the sausage rolls. We do appreciate you as well, and everybody else that contributes on an ongoing basis there. We do truly appreciate it. I mean, we need to get this out to more people. More people need to wake up, because this kind of stuff, it's not on CBC. Not on CBC. They do have lots of TDS stuff about ICE agents being the Nazis and, you know, fascists and jackboots and all kinds of stuff, get you riled up, but they won't talk about this stuff. Yeah, you don't need to put their
stuff.
And
it is right. I mean, I was blinded by you know, Marc Miller and how he makes my skin crawl. But the real question here is, this law, which is similar to lots of the other things that this particular group of Liberals want to do, which is keep all the laws in place, but grant themselves the power to arbitrarily suspend those laws for certain people at certain times. Very much like this woman said, Cabina, the power of a king, but not a British king, not a constitutional monarch, but an absolute monarch. You know, like
China,
like a Roman emperor, like Augustus or something like that. Like beyond King Charles, who obviously has absolutely no power whatsoever, or even his predecessors in like the 18th and 19th centuries, beyond the power of Queen Victoria, for example. It's the power just to suspend every single law, pretty much, for the benefit of one individual who comes and asks you to do so.
Imagine
again,
the law.
I refer back to what I was saying about democracy in Canada. Not only is Marc Miller not conducive to the continuation of democracy in Canada, but this law and laws like it prompt the question, is Canada a democracy now? Is it really?
Those are questions we're going to have to continue to ask. This one is serious. Again, share this. We're going to clip this one up very soon. So we do the show. It's about 2 hours long, the show. And we do clip pieces up. And then there's usually get about 10 clips in here. You can share them far and wide. And we need to get this out to a much larger audience. And we are now on Rumble. We are now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and a whole bunch of other podcasts through Transistor. And you can find us. We have a Now Media X now as well. We just started that. And we're also on TikTok. So the Department of Finance executive who oversaw a 192% hike in the deficit yesterday apologized after laughing about his inability to calculate basic interest. And the MP said, "I don't find it funny." Leswick attempted a joke while testifying in the Commons Public Accounts Committee over the 2025 deficit, originally forecast at $26.8 billion, but actually coming in at $78.3 billion. It's the largest deficit in Canadian history, and then we're making jokes. I mean, Canadians are going to pay for this for a long time. What's the cost of $80 billion in borrowing? The cost of $80 billion and the effective interest rate is 3%. And it's crazy. Like the servicing of the debt alone, interest payments on the debt cost taxpayers $55 billion last year. Imagine what we could do with $55 billion. Imagine what we could do if we could just get a pipeline and we could make $55 billion instead of throwing it away on interest costs to get to the benefit of bankers. Debt servicing is forecast to reach $76 billion by 2029. $76 billion just in debt servicing. So that means the bankers are going to make the money in Canada. Again, even our bank stocks are doing well. And then Terry Newman, one more piece from Terry Newman. She's doing some good work there. She was an opinion writer at National Post. But, all this talk about an election, and she asked, how does it feel about a government that announces a one-time grocery credit just before an election? Trudeau did the same thing. You know what I mean? Like, these are the games they play with your tax dollars, the games they play, the powers they want. Imagine if they had a majority government and they didn't have to go through committee stuff. Just imagine what would get done under the cover of darkness. Just imagine what gets done. Fire up the jet. Mark Carney's off again. How many? He makes Justin Trudeau look like a homebody. But he's off to Munich, the Munich Security Conference in Germany to expand partnerships and reinforce collective security. What's done so far? Like all these trips abroad, not much to show for it, other than huge catering bills. Somebody likes to fly and dine well. I guess this is like party like it's 1995, and like literally on the Canadian tax dollars.
He might also have a speech up his sleeve for this conference that he can impress the Financial Times with, and Emmanuel Macron, and the other groups and individuals out there that he's keen to impress, who he considers to be his peers.
Yeah, that's where he is. He shines on that world.
He did do that.
That's where he shines on that world stage with the other globalists, and most of them are done. Keir Starmer is like banging on the door, like they're pounding the door down to get Keir out. So Keir will be another one gone here. But this one here, this is what they've been telling you all along when you complained about rising rents, rising food costs, rising everything. This is what they give you back. And it's time to push back. It says, not interested in your crap anymore. Listen to her.
Limitations I put before you are not actually public will. They are government policy. But the policy choices are given cover from dangerous narratives that have taken hold and have been fanned over the past 2 years by all levels of government and across party lines.
1 minute.
The narratives wrongly blame current pressures on housing and social systems. They're not only false, it's dangerous, and it undermines confidence in the immigration and refugee system.
I just wanted to go back to something you said earlier. You claim that there's no correlation between rapid immigration growth of the last several years and the decrease of Canada's available housing supply. Is that correct?
Yes, more or less. I think they are.
So you think that, like, even though we had millions of people come in, that had no impact on housing supply or prices in Canada?
I'm saying that the factors that drive the cost of housing and the availability of housing are much more related to the questions of the financialization of housing as an asset rent control. So
So
policies
just to be
that
clear,
are,
you don't think bringing in millions of people in a very short period of time like that had no impact on housing, even though like major economists and most Canadians' lived experience says otherwise? I'm just asking from a perspective.
That's good enough. Like major economists, like how about just a dash of common sense, just a sliver of common sense that, you know, basic economics, right? Supply and demand. If there is more demand than supply, guess what goes up? Prices. Mark Carney wrote it in a letter in Brookfield when he said, we have an opportune time right now to take advantage of renters who are squeezed because of lack of vacancy, where we can add on things. He wrote it himself. And here she is denying basic economics and telling you it's dangerous to even consider talking about it. This is the stuff that they've done the Liberals have done this for 10 years, and the bureaucrats have done this for 10 years with these failed policies, these policies that benefit the few at the expense of the many. The policies that told you they couldn't find workers for Tim Hortons and A&W, where you had to subsidize Tim Hortons' profit lines and A&W's because they didn't want to pay more to attract Canadian youth here that have unemployment numbers in double digits. And so that people like the guy at Conestoga College, I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now, could make a $600,000 a year salary in some college that nobody's heard of that doles out probably like certificates like they're garbage. I don't know what Conestoga does, but I'm sure it's not much. $600,000 a year. $600,000 in a college nobody's heard of. Other than, you know, he did. $600,000 a year he made.
I mean, a lot of people in the Punjab, I'm sure, have heard of it. Must be well known.
I think it was 86% of the students there were foreign students. They took advantage of the system. They took advantage of you. The unemployment rate in that town was in the double digits. And this lady here just going against your basic common sense and telling you that it's dangerous to talk like that. Why is it dangerous to talk like that? Common sense is dangerous?
But it's the last refuge of somebody defeated.
She should be fired. She should be fired.
But she's been defeated in an argument. I mean, long ago, really. I would say that the defeat occurred several years ago. At least, at least as long ago as when Justin Trudeau admitted all of this, basically, and said, "Yep, immigration was kind of dumb. Sorry about that, everyone." I mean, what was that, 2021, I think? Either 21 or 22 that he came out and said that. So she's lost the argument, and her side, so to speak, has lost the argument. So what is left? Just try and do whatever you can to patch it up and make it somehow plausible. And, you know, it's like, how do you put up your wall? How do you put up your barrier, your shield wall? Just say it's dangerous. Just move the category. We're no longer talking about what's true and what's false. We're talking about what's dangerous, what's safe, what's good and what's bad. And then that's terrain that they're comfortable on. They can fight there because they've lost on the factual battleground. That's how I see it. But I'd also just want to point out Global Traveler given us some, because he lives in Mexico, I think, or he said he used to live in Mexico, and he's provided some insight there. I would just say thank you. Fine chap. I have heard that about how the corporations are more independent than people believe, like commercial enterprises. But nonetheless, the point I was trying to make about Mexico is that it has a terrible disease, which is these drug cartels, and they infect almost every aspect of life there.
And thank you to Charles McDonald for the contribution, as well as buying a membership. Thank you, Charles. I mean, this is the chair of the Canadian Council of Refugees. And this narrative that they did, Marc Miller, when people asked him to, and he just basically called that reporter a racist. These people need to go and get some kind of like training in basic economics and how to be a Canadian, care about the rest of Canada instead of just lining their pockets. This one we're just going to go through quickly. The Commons yesterday gave second reading to a private bill to name corporate tax delinquents. Conservative MP Adam Chambers was sponsor of the bill, called it offensive to every sensible person that the revenue agency quietly negotiated settlements with companies that owed millions. Again, I'm just going to bring up Brookfield. Why haven't they closed that loophole where it dodged $6.5 billion in taxes that you, as a Canadian citizen, have to pay because they don't want to pay what they should pay. Not closed. And here's a question. We've brought it up several times now, and here's it in committee. Just to kind of reiterate, just bang this point home. Nearly 8,000 senior public servants has got $146 million in bonuses last year. Tell me what's better. What do you think is better? Let's listen real quick on this.
Thank you for being here. This is a very important exercise. I'd like to start with Treasury Board. Based on TBS data, there are over 8,000 senior managers in the public service. 7,900 of them received bonuses totaling over $140 million. So around $18,000 per person. I hope that those who manage the benefits...
Yeah, that's good. Anyway, they're getting bonuses, and you're getting a tax increase April 1, too. So you're going to pay more for liquor on April 1. You're paying more for CPP already. And more for them, less for you.
The finances, the treasury is being looted to such an extraordinary extent that even the Bloc Québécois are unhappy about it. I mean, that should be setting the alarm off for anybody watching.
And then let's try this one on for size. The April 1, the MPs are getting a raise, about a 4% raise. They're getting a raise while you're being asked to pay more, because April 1, taxes go up on alcohol. And CPP's already gone up, and it works out to about $250 for families and CPP, or for an individual on CPP if you're making a certain amount of money. But hey, they're getting a raise anywhere from $8,800 to $17,600 increase in their annual pay. So they can, and that doesn't count their bonuses. That doesn't count. I mean, the MPs don't get bonuses, I don't think, but they sure get an expense account to spend like drunken sailors. Like Greg Ferguson, Speaker of the House, spent $273,000 of your tax dollars on his Caribbean junkets. Just imagine if we should try to get an FOI on what Melanie Jolie spends in a year.
No, the world is your oyster, though, as an MP. It's like, it is what you make of it. And the more entrepreneurial figures, such as Greg Fergus, they know how to make the most of it, don't they? And they get these enormous amounts of money to go on their hollybobs to Africa and the Caribbean and wherever else he went. But you do have to be, you know, if you really want to exploit the taxpayer to the max, you've got to take advantage of what's on offer. Like, sadly, there are lots of MPs out there that just they haven't figured that out yet. They're just sat there on their $200,000 a year basic payments and some expenses. They're not making the most of it.
They put out a piece, I think was Friedland put it out there to say we got to cut back on travel. Nobody listened to that. And look at Mark Carney. Like I said, he makes Justin Trudeau look like a homebody. He's got that jet fired up like crazy. He even went to that signing for the peace agreement there with Gaza and Israel. Wasn't even really invited. He phoned and asked to get invited. And I think that trip was like $150,000 or something like that for him to go there. And the reporters are mad they didn't get to go on that junket.
Yeah, that's the only thing they were mad about. It was just that.
Oh, man. I was going to play another Marc Miller clip here, but, well, let's play. You know, because if you just hadn't had enough Marc Miller, he's also...
I'm going to put my hazmat suit on.
Yeah, okay, let's go, Mark.
Bill C-11 came into effect in June of 2024. It's been almost 2 years. What tangible accomplishment has been achieved through Bill C-11 for the Canadian people? It was touted as something that would further our identity and our culture. I'm just curious as to what tangible things it's done to do that.
I think by its passage, it has signaled to the industry, it's signaled to Canadians that we are expecting people to behave in a way, in a free and open society, as they should, and to build up and to make sure we are building a society that allows, in this environment, the media to thrive, justly, as you highlighted, supporting freedom of expression, but in an environment that is fair and accessible to all.
That's good. That's good. Like, you buying that? You were in the media. You buying that? Free and
Also,
equitable?
what is he talking about? Like, teaching people how to behave. Just give it a rest, will you? You know, this is the thing. I've mentioned the American founding fathers a number of times. You know, Thomas Jefferson et al. They are such remarkable people, but one of the ways in which they were so remarkable is that they have way more power than Marc Miller. Marc Miller is like the perfect representative of the Canadian elite, the Laurentian elite. He literally is the Laurentian elite. They had way more power than Marc Miller and Justin Trudeau, people like that, and yet they voluntarily chose to write laws that took that power away from them. And like, especially in this sort of area about how you're expected to behave and think, like, this crazy, demented authoritarian impulse that the Liberals have. The likes of Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, all the big boys, they voluntarily said, no, we're going to write laws, we're going to write a constitution that restricts how much power we have and strengthens the power of the individual against us. We're going to do that. And the more time that passes, the more remarkable that seems. You look at Marc Miller, obviously Marc Miller is a very small man. He's not Thomas Jefferson, is he? But still, look at him. Look at the way he behaves. Look at his impulses. He can't control his instinct to control other people. He can't keep that down inside of himself the way that the American founding fathers did. It's just, I know that's a bit obscure, maybe not expecting me to say that, but when you see ordinary operating procedure in our species, when you see people behave in a totally ordinary way, as Marc Miller is doing, it sort of elevates the exceptions even higher. And I just feel like that's worth remembering. And that's a good thing about America, isn't it? We can praise our American friends.
Some people are asking for no more Marc Miller, and I wasn't going to play, but it's so important that we're going to have to give you one more Marc Miller here, because this is really, really important as well. Marc Miller's showing you why democracy is important and why they're stepping all over it. Let's play one more clip from Mr. Miller here.
You said earlier, the media are the fourth pillar of our democracy. When it comes to private TV, private media, and local media, are those all part of it, or is it just Radio-Canada that is the fourth pillar of our democracy? No. Actually, I think you already knew the answer to the question, and very clearly the answer is no. I think the question that you're going to ask me is, what is the role of the state to support it? So $150 million for CBC Radio-Canada for this year. You know that as Quebecers, we're not against that. But television is going through a crisis. What do you have laid out in the budget for that, for the other entities that make up that fourth pillar?
That's good. That's good. That's good, though. What's that? Oh, come on, though, because it was translated.
They were speaking French.
So, CBC, Marc Carney has said it too, it's the most important institution in Canada because it is the Liberal mouthpiece. It is their shield as well. Listen to David Cochrane. He defends the Liberal Party if anybody goes after it. He literally, instead of, they're supposed to be, they take your tax dollars, they should be the voice of Canada. They are the voice of the Liberal Party. They defend the Liberal Party. They're the shield of the Liberal Party. And they get more and more money. They stick their trough in and take tax dollars. The only way we get, I mean, there should be massive uproar over that other thing where Marc Miller and cabinet ministers and Marc Carney want these extreme powers that Ian and I talked about for a while here. And nothing. This should be an uproar in Canada. So this is how they do it. They fund the media they want. They only allow access to themselves from the media that is crippled and corrupted. They don't give us access to them. They don't even answer a goddamn email. Like, how many times have you emailed Marc Miller?
Marc Miller's got much better things to do, apparently, than respond to my emails, like passive aggressive
seven or so
in
emails.
committees.
They won't even respond to it. That's what they think of the media, and then they sit there and talk like it's an important foundation of democracy. CBC.
The Liberal Party is hostile to the media. I mean, there's no other way to put it. We've talked around that so long and tried to give them the benefit of the doubt, but if we're going to have to put it into one sentence, the Liberal Party is hostile to a free media. That's just the way that they act. And having interviewed Michael Geist a couple of times, I don't want to put words in his mouth if he somehow ends up seeing this, but I got the impression that that's what he thought too. And it's almost like arriving at that reluctantly, as I've done. You don't want to think that. You don't want to conclude that. But all the evidence suggests that the Liberal Party is just hostile to a free and independent media that might scrutinise them and might hold them to account. They don't want to be held to account. And even there, Marc Miller, again, in one of these committees, behaving like an ill-mannered, truculent teenage boy. You know, just like the hooliganism that he displays, where he's like, that's not correct, and I think you knew that anyway. It's like, why is this man so antisocial? Why is he so disagreeable? It's not conducive to a democratic system. It's like throwing a wrench into the system every time. You're supposed to cooperate. You're supposed to be civilized enough, well-behaved enough to just sit there and answer questions in an honest way. But like so many of his colleagues, he just refuses to do that.
Canada is being divided. Canada is, and they'll blame that divisiveness on everybody else except for themselves when they need to find a mirror. But here's Blanchette, the Bloc leader, talking about separatist movements for both Quebec and Alberta.
A lot of talk about separatism in Quebec and in Alberta. Is it time for the federal MPs to declare which way they feel on these matters?
If you imply that there might be other federal MPs that have sentiments toward independence of, in this case, Alberta, that might prove very interesting. I know that there are some MPs within the Conservatives Party which have an art inclining toward independence of Alberta. It's their decision to make. Self-determination is a right that belongs to those who claim it, and nobody is entitled to refuse it, or make an odious law that would go against it.
A lot of talk about...
That's good. Obviously, the Bloc, or all those MPs, are for separation. That's the whole point of the Bloc, right?
Although Stephen Harper, in his media appearances that he's been making over the last week or two, he said that he was in an elevator or something like that, and I don't know, he was somewhere surrounded by powerful people, and he said one of the country's best-known separatists, Quebec separatists, walked in and they had a conversation. And Harper said something like, that what Trump's doing proves that Quebec's much better off inside Canada. And Harper says that this person replied with, yes, I think you're right. And I don't know how many people fit that description of like very famous, very nationally known Quebec separatists. Was it you, Blanchette? But yeah, I mean, anyway, in theory, anyway, yes, they all want to separate right now.
Thank you, Laura, for joining Thinking Canadians. We welcome you as a member, and we do like the community, and like I said, we interact, and we're definitely want you to be part of this journey here as we try to make for a better Canada by revealing the truth that the other media outlets, I mean, they've actually created us. They've created us because they've left a gap. They've left a gap. They've become so enamored or crippled and corrupted by the Liberals that they've lost their way. And thank you, Laura. And the sausage rolls, you get the emojis now. So we're going to make more emojis as well, more things. We're going to do a video on that, on the things that we're going to offer up here. This one here should make you as angry as all heck too. This is something that the Liberals and the NDP in BC have allowed this decriminalization and all these things at the detriment of your children here. Listen to this one here. And they knew what's happening.
The Ottawa Police Chief sent a letter to your government raising childcare safety concerns about the federally approved ejection site on Nelson Street in Ottawa. Has your department briefed you on this letter? Yes or no?
Yes.
Have you read the letter?
Yes.
This letter stated, and I quote, "The Ottawa Police Service is especially troubled by the unintended but serious consequences, such as the closure of nearby childcare facilities due to safety concerns, a situation that is without precedent in our city," end quote. Were you aware that a childcare facility was closed next to this injection site because of safety concerns? Yes or no?
You know, I am working very closely with the province on that specific matter, and we are on s'ajuste à toutes les.
We adapt to all of the regulations put in place by the provinces. So when it's about renewing a site, if the province wants to renew a site,
That's good. Yesterday, they don't even ask your age. You can go in there right by a school. You can go in there, 13, 14.
But again, that's just like the immigration thing, isn't it? Where it's like, even though it's right in front of your eyes, it's not happening. We've got our best boffins on it, and they've put some studies out that suggest it's not happening actually. But the whole debate about feeding drug addicts drugs and that being the best possible thing that you could do to for all parties involved, that is exactly like the mass immigration doesn't cause house price increases.
This is
it's just the same thing. It's just like that you're being told that you have to ignore the sense data that your body provides to you. René Descartes would be furious.
This is a reminder to you how important your vote is. Like, when you get a chance to vote, you have to make it count. Like, you can't give up, because this is what giving up looks like. This is what giving up looks like, where they just get to do whatever they want. And asking for those powers that Marc Miller's asking for, that's a bridge too far. We talk about bridges. That's a bridge too far. And that's what we fight. That's what we fight. That's what we're here fighting. I mean, this is hard to do for a small outlet like us to do this. We're an accredited media outlet. This is hard for us to do this show every day. It's hard. But we do it for more than, for a reason, because nobody else is taking the space right now. Nobody else is doing it. And you can encourage your MPs to come on with us. We're getting interviews. We've got lots of interviews. We're doing more. We're doing as much as we can. As much as we can. And look here in British Columbia. This is where we're based out of, British Columbia, and Ian's in Ottawa. More than half of, this is from Research Co. We've had Mario Canseco on here many times, and we'll get him on for this one again. Mario Canseco, pollster. I don't know how many times he's been on with us. What, 6, 7 times now? More than half of British Columbians fear for their safety, and that's from Research Co. 73% said polls said crime and violence are impacting their quality of life. 37% said they'd been a victim. 37% said they'd been a victim of a recent crime. 53% people said they feared for the safety of their families. 56% said they actively avoided area in their community. I'm going to say this again. The people that watch this show on a regular basis know that I went to Tokyo, spent 10 days there in Tokyo and Osaka, and I walked around at 3 o'clock in the morning for 2 hours almost every day for 10 days, feeling completely safe. 100% safe. I've shared that with the city council and the mayors here. I've shared it with the MLAs here that I talk to on a regular basis. And I said, it can be done. Don't let them go to the podium anymore and say it can't be done. It's done there. And here in British Columbia, more than half the people are scared for their safety here in British Columbia. And it's probably worse in other parts of Canada, including Ontario. Somebody just moved from Ontario and said they were so scared in Ontario they moved to BC to find out people are just as scared here. I've interviewed the mayor several times.
87% point to addiction and mental illness contributing to crime and public safety.
Well, the drugs, for sure. I mean, when I got back from Tokyo, I was emceeing of an event, a Bitcoin event, and I walked from 6:30. It was dark, about a block and a half, and I was hassled by somebody that clearly had used in the past little while and was being aggressive towards me. I wouldn't walk in downtown Kelowna, and I talked to a lot of the councillors here, and I talked to a lot of the MLAs. Would you walk in your downtown core, down in East Hastings? Would you walk in downtown in the middle of the night by yourself? The answer is likely no. And then these people will tell you all these other reasons why, because it's like this everywhere in the world. No, it's not. No, it's not. And I've talked to many people that said they've been to Denmark, been to other countries. It's not like that.
Definitely not.
These are the wrong people. They're the wrong people. They've given up, and they've had the wheel for 10, 11 years. They've had the wheel for 10, 11 years. Just look out the back window and the carnage that's behind them. Look at it all behind them. Look at it all. Everywhere. Just carnage. Economy in tatters. Healthcare in tatters. Youth feel like they can't get a home. The whole economy is in tatters. It's absolutely in tatters. I don't know what's in good shape. I don't know what's in good shape here, because it ain't the media. The media is basically crippled and corrupted. Global's like Walking Dead. Go look at their stock chart. I'm not making it up. Go look at it. It used to be a $20 stock. It's like 3 cents. It's dead. It's basically the Walking Dead. They're going to be begging for more money here because they have no money. They've laid off almost all their journalists. All they have left is an executive that continues to take bonuses.
Well, the fact that they are a walking corpse might be part of the reason why it looks like the Online News Act is going to be finally removed, because that will then increase their revenue considerably if they can get back on Facebook. Obviously, they didn't care about that when they thought Facebook was going to pay up big money and they were going to benefit the most from it. But
Peter Millibar running. I've interviewed Peter Millibar in the past. I'm going to interview him again here. Going to reach out and ask him. He's running for the BC Conservative leadership. I've interviewed many of the MLAs here in the Conservatives. I've interviewed a few of the NDPs too. It's hard to get them, but they do come eventually. They still, are recognize that accountability to media is still important, even though they make it hard. So, that is a kudos to the NDP. At least I've interviewed David Eby. We've got a letter out to him right now requesting an interview. No response yet. But
to be fair, they've given us a few, haven't they?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm being fair. They have.
Ravi Palmer. He's another one that we've had on. And
it was a good. I've interviewed Ravi twice, Brenda Bailey twice, and then a few other ones. So they do provide access where the Liberals, nothing. They don't even answer emails. Stephen Fuhrer, local MP, 7 emails unanswered. 7 emails unanswered.
Yeah, but you say that, but we do get to learn what he's up to in the Financial Times, which is a newspaper based in London, England, owned by Japanese people. So we get to know that. No, we just have to look at the international press. And you also just have to subscribe to the Financial Times, which is quite expensive. But anyway, you do that, and then you get to hear what your local MP thinks. So that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it, Stephen?
There's Ian being sarcastic again. If you get a chance to go to Japan, I recommend it. Japan just had their election too, and outstanding win there for that party, like just a sweep. And that's the people of Japan said they had enough. And here in Canada, are we going to be so late to the party? Look out the back window. The car's driving down the road. The wheels are off the bus. Everything's off. Like the car is falling apart, literally falling apart. Look out the back window. Look at the carnage, the stuff that's been run over, crashed into. The car is in rough shape. And in the front there's the CBC and them telling you how great the car is. And with Francois Philippe, what's Francois Philippe Champagne saying in front of the car? I'm just waiting for your we have the greatest economy ever.
Oh, we're going to be all right. That's his best line.
My mom said we're going to be all right.
There's a picture. If you go on, for the Kelowna people that are on this stream, if you go on Tom Dias's Facebook page, you'll see him standing next to Champagne, and he's twice the size of him.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll put the link in the thing, and we can just.
Have you seen a picture of Champagne and Eby? That one, it looks like it's been at the.
Yeah, I can't remember the Champagne Eby one, but I don't know about Tom Dias. I don't know if Tom Dias is like particularly tall, but I mean, there's a. He looks. Champagne always looks a bit sort of off there, doesn't he?
You gotta find the Eby one. Anyway,
I don't want to mock. I really don't want to. I'm not trying to mock him, and if it seems like I am, then I hope that I can correct that. I wouldn't want to mock him for like his height or whatever. And unlike some of the journalists who, when he got those shoes made for delivering the budget, the journalists who were given that golden ticket to inhabit the halls of the Commons, one of the first things they said to him, they said, "Are there lifts in those shoes?" That's just harsh. That's just like bullying the fella. You can think whatever you want about his politics and all the rest of it, his attitude, but I think it's harsh to slag him for his size.
Emily Lowen, the one that says that she's going to get rid of all the billionaires and all the grocery stores, and she's going to have government-run grocery stores. We don't know how that's going to work out. They've abandoned their political ally, the BC NDP, over what they say are stalled or undelivered promises. Isn't it odd? We have a fringe party, basically a fringe party, that runs the Canadian or the British Columbia economy. A fringe party calling the shots. And the same thing happened in Canada. We had a fringe party, the NDP, basically making the Liberals even look worse. I don't even think Justin Trudeau would have been as bad as he was if it wasn't for Jagmeet Singh. He probably would have been washed out earlier. Anyway.
Yeah. But this is the Greens just, they don't need to do this deal with the NDP. The NDP don't need them particularly. It was just like it was just being extra cautious, just in case, because it's theoretically the case that the whole House now could join forces and get an election called. I believe they have the numbers now.
There's so many fractures.
Whereas the Greens were just like they were like a barrier against that. They could secure them against that.
Well, I'm not going to give the Greens much more time. It's a fringe party. They're lucky to hang on to the 2 seats they have. Same as Elizabeth May. You know what I mean? That fringe party, I mean, it's an extremist party, if anything. And it gets way too much airtime. And Elizabeth May, she might need help, actually. Well, let's talk about some vision, though. We got some good stuff here. Because this is, again, what I say about America. They have a vision that Canada's missing. Where's our vision? Their vision is to build Elon Musk here. And somebody said it in the comments earlier. I meant to say something. He's the most consequential man on this planet right now, building the vision of the future. And probably the most important company on this planet is his group of companies. And there's talk that they'll merge SpaceX and Tesla. SpaceX owns now X. SpaceX now owns Starlink. And if they merge Tesla with this, it would be one mega corporation that basically, this is physical AI. This is what, you know, like there's AI, the chatbots. I think a lot of people are used to the chatbots, you know, ChatGPT, Grok, Claude, all these other different chatbots. But Tesla and SpaceX are actually physical AI. And like my car drives me back and forth to work. I don't touch the wheel. And it's actually a robot already. It's a robot with 4 wheels. And that's the vision of the future. We need to get to that so we can actually have a vision of a better tomorrow as opposed to this divisive politics where we're always talking about how we need to hate the Americans. America, we rest every night. We go to sleep comfortably under the safety of their military because we've neglected ours. We go to sleep every night under their safety, and we stick sticks in their eyes when we wake up. Seems odd. Well, we got a little bit of international stuff. Keir Starmer, like, I mean, they're going to drag his sorry butt out of there because he doesn't want to seem to go willingly. But let's listen to this clip here.
Before our very eyes. The government is in open revolt against the Prime Minister who now has no authority whatsoever. And what are people thinking? Whilst they're watching this government turning in on itself so quickly, just like the last Conservative government did, people are worried about their bills, their energy prices, jobs going, immigration continuing to be out of control, crime, town centres being hollowed out, all the challenges that the country faces. And yet this government is just focused in on itself, on a failed Prime Minister who's waiting to be shown the exit. We've got to move forward beyond this because the public just deserves something so much better than having government after government collapse into chaos before their very eyes.
Robert, what happens next?
That's good.
The governments that kept collapsing before their eyes, by the way, if you're interested, were the governments that he supported. the Conservative Party government. You know, he's left the Conservative Party and he's joined Nigel Farage's party, but it's just so hard to take anybody that was associated with the Conservative Party in Britain in that era. It's so hard to take any of them seriously, even the defectors like him.
We got one more clip here for you from a media. This is Alex Armstrong, I guess. Let's listen to what he has to say.
Well, look, this is a government that is collapsing before our very eyes. The government is...
I think that's the same clip.
Double Robert Jenrick.
Double trouble, double jeopardy. You got the next one, or is it the same one? This one down there, yeah, that's the one. Again, we don't have that $1.5 billion that the CBC gets to, you know, and that massive plate of sausage rolls they have there. That, you know, like those sausage rolls. Anytime you're ready, just roll it. And thank you to Boy180 for the contribution to independent media. We appreciate that. You got the other one? Yep, run it.
Tell you what, I'm calling it. He's done. This is it. You cannot be in the front pages for 7 days a week over what is being dubbed as the biggest scandal in British politics and survive as Prime Minister, particularly as you spent so many years and so many months berating the previous government for its lack of morality, for its lack of ethics.
That's good. He's calling it. I called it too. I say Keir's done before the end of the month.
I'm surprised he's still there, but it's imminent.
If you go
It's
to
just
Poly
about
Markets,
when.
it looks like he's going to stick around till June. I think the Poly Markets are calling. And Poly Markets are pretty good, but I don't know how he sticks around. It seems like there's Boris Johnson. How did that one go? It was a couple of resignations, and then it just, what did he get to, like 6, 7, and then he called it? Good old Boris.
Well, Boris.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a few defections, and they just started falling like dominoes, and then. Like Keir's...
there are a number of like smaller elections coming up in Scotland and council elections, which are like, well, just like council elections in Canada, I guess. But they have the Labour Party is represented all over the country in these towns and cities, and they're going to get wiped out probably in those elections, as usually happens to the governing party. So at the very latest, that's when he'll be done. That'll be the spring. But I mean, if he survives that long, I would have to sort of give him a round of applause. That would be quite an amazing achievement if he lasts that long.
He is definitely the weakest of the four amigos, and the four amigos: Macron, Starmer, Albanese, and Carney. That's the gang.
Gang of cool dudes.
Gang of something, anyway. Can you imagine the media in England if they were trying to pass that, what Marc Miller's trying to get through there? Can you imagine what the media in England would do in the UK?
Somebody like Marc Miller would not be possible in the British political scene. Just wouldn't be possible. He would have been cut to pieces years ago. He would have been destroyed before he could give birth to his political career.
Say that to the people here. Like, it is the weakness of our media. Media's job, number one job, is to hold power accountable. So the Liberals have shielded themselves off with a shield of the CBC, CTV, and Global. They shield themselves off and say, oh yeah, we provide access to these media. And then they say the rest of them aren't media. So they don't have any accountability. And look, you just have to look at Rosie Barton and David Cochrane. Listen to them. Just listen to them for 2 minutes and see what we pay $1.5 billion. They're supposed to be the voice of Canada. They're supposed to be the watchdogs of Canada. They are the watchdogs of the Liberal Party. They have corrupted democracy in Canada. They are the threat. Why don't you have us on?
Bear in mind as well, this GB News, which we've shown videos from them from time to time. You know, they're spoken of as being like ridiculous and like the Fox News and all Fox News of Britain and everything. Not really fair, but they're certainly, they have a team that they're on for sure. They're definitely on the right, and yet, Prime Minister, all kinds of Labour bigwigs, ministers and whatnot, speak to them, give interviews to them. Yeah, sometimes they even like ask them, say, I need to do an interview with GB News because GB News is seen to represent a certain bit of the public that Labour struggles to communicate with.
Well, our friend
This
here.
is the other thing, like the diversity there. It's not just the diversity of the media in Britain and the United States and elsewhere. It's also it's about the attitude of the elite. Even the elite in Britain, which is like in so many ways a failed society, they still see the importance of trying to communicate with the whole country. And if they have to do it through a media outlet that doesn't like them and that they don't like, then so what? They do it. That's part of the job. But when it comes to the elite in Canada, the political elite in particular, you know, if it's a media outlet that they don't like, they will just never speak to them, ever. They will never speak to them. And that's it. Full stop. It's never going to happen. That is, you know, that is one of Canada's primary weaknesses, I think. It's one of the main ailments when it comes to Canada's democracy, though. And the whole of Canadian society, is that is allowed to happen. That the elite is so, you know, that they're so bad. They're such naughty people that that's their attitude, and they just go with it and they get away with it. You know, that's such a bad sign.
It's actually horrible here in Canada, in that we have one viewer that said he's lived in 50 countries, and he said in those 50 countries, the media in Canada is the worst. And
wow.
It's just that they use CBC as a shield. They literally use it as a shield. And they use it to slip things out as well when they're doing policy. You know, they get the information ahead of time. They are the propaganda arm for the Liberal Party, and only one party. If you want change, there's only one way to get change and accountability in this nation. There's only one way, because these people will not change from within. I'd hope that Marc Carney would be changed. He talked about transparency and accountability. Asking for those powers is the exact opposite of that. It's the exact opposite of that. I think the last two things we're going to talk about here, because we got like a minute here. Bill Maher is basically doing a Chris Cuomo. He's trying to like shed all the stuff that he said in the past, and he was on this. He did this this talk show here, or sorry, this podcast, and he basically said he didn't want to take the vaccine. He was forced into the vaccine because they were going to take his show away, so he did the vaccine. And he also says that he's done with all these people that says you can't talk to the right at all, and he's done with all that crap, and he's done with Jimmy Kimmel and his antics. No sense playing the whole clip, but that's what he says. And King Charles says that that they will do whatever it takes to get to the truth about Jeffrey Epstein and his brother Andrew.
Statement from Buckingham Palace in full. We don't need to play it, but
it's right from the palace itself. Have you ever been in the palace? No, they didn't.
Not that one. Not Buckingham Palace. No. I've been outside it, like many a peasant, trying to get a glimpse of the monarch.
There you go. Hopefully they don't put us in a palace when they get those powers, because if you know Marc Miller, I mean, we're doing the best we can, for sure. And we appreciate everybody that comes here all the time. And we especially appreciate the regulars that come here, you know, Jason, Laura, I see the names there, Heidi, and especially all the members, Brett, Global Traveler, Charles, lots of people that come on a regular basis. Like
Judith Taylor, that's
Tracy,
another one.
Yeah, Clarence. We're on Rumble now.
Lightning Rod.
Lightning Rod, yeah. And we're on Rumble and TikTok. Those are new channels we launched, TikTok, and we get shared lots now. Some of our TikToks get shared a lot on some of the bigger X channels. We just started an X channel, so if you could help us share it, get it out there. And I do write a lot on LinkedIn. You can find us on LinkedIn. But if you go to the website, if you can put the website up there, the really big show.ca. If you put that up there, there's links to a lot of the things. If you scroll down there, you're going to see this. And there's YouTube. Whoop, go back up. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, X, and Rumble. You're going to find all those things there. And if you keep going down, keep going all the way down, just like the Friendly Giant said, all the way down. Come on, all the way down. All the way down. Keep going. There you go. Yeah. And right there, if you want to connect with the show, if you want to send us a news tip, be a guest on the show, general inquiries, or if you want to make a contribution to independent media, you can do that all right there. If you want to put that link in there in the description or in the comments there, that would be appreciated as well. And like I said, where our goal was 1 million views for January, we did 1.5 million. Our goal is to get to 100,000 subscribers by, midsummer here. Hopefully we can do that a lot faster and get this out to a lot more people, especially if there's an election coming up. We got to get this channel out there big time if there's an election coming, because we got to get out more truth for sure. So you can help us by putting this wherever you can, because if an election comes, we need more than the CBC out there talking about it. Because that's, like, they couldn't even get news on Facebook, but the Liberals got their ads on Facebook. They spent over $5 million putting their propaganda on Facebook, not allowing news outlets like ourselves to put our news on Facebook, which they said is one of the most important platforms for news. Weird, isn't it? Just weird. You say
That's
it out
literally
loud.
what they
It's just
said.
weird.
Yeah, they said it's just too important. It's too, like, as much as we'd like to maintain this boycott, it's just too important. So we've got to do it. Meanwhile, if you happen to be in the news business, scurry along, you filthy peasant.
We are like two sparks in the darkness going after the people that like to hide in the darkness, and that's what they like to do, everything under the cover of darkness, and that includes the BC NDP with what they've done with DRIPA and what the Liberals have done with so much here in Canada under the cover of darkness. So our job is to shine a light on it. And again, thank you. You got that link there, the Really Big Show, .ca, and also you can become a member here. We see lots of people have become members. That's great. Continue that and share far and wide. That would be the way that you could help the most, is just getting this out there and convincing friends, neighbors, relatives, everybody to watch the Really Big Show, whether in this show or in the clips that we put out there. We know it's a big commitment, but saving Canada is also a commitment and well worth it for yourself and your children and your grandchildren. I will see you tomorrow. I'm back. Is it 12 o'clock or 1? What time are we doing? I got Renee Merrifield, MLA, with the Beyond the Ballot here at noon. And then I think we have John Carpe in later this week, too. He's going to jump in the show again, too. So anyway, thank you. And I'll see you at noon with Beyond the Ballot. Cheers.